A geomagnetic storm has hit Earth. This could actually knock out satellites. It could disrupt communications and it could harm our power grids. That is what we were being told. Well, this geomagnetic storm, or what some are calling solar flares, this hit us the other day. However, we are now going to experience something very interesting potentially tonight, and according to officials, they say this could go all the way till Wednesday. So I want to break down what's going on at this time, give you a quick little warning, and explain what this means for your health moving forward. So make sure you stick around for this entire video. I'll explain exactly what is going on. But all I ask is one thing. It takes 2 seconds. Go ahead, hit that like button if you enjoy these daily updates. And now let's begin. So here is what we know. A geomagnetic storm from a solar flare could disrupt radio communications and create a striking aurora. Now you can see the picture right here. That looks stunning. However, some say there are some concerns. Now I want to read a little bit of this article from the Associated Press and also talk about this warning right here. This is from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Okay, it says right here in this forecast, it says solar activity is expected to continue at moderate levels. This is R1 through R2 with a chance for an X-class flare. This is R3. This is the strongest over 25 to 27 of March. Okay, that's today through Wednesday. Now, I want to read you a little bit of this article from the Associated Press. It says, space weather forecasters have issued a geomagnetic storm watch through Monday, saying an outburst of plasma from a solar flare could interfere with radio transmissions on Earth. It could also make for great aurora viewing. Now, I will touch on that in just a moment because you could see this all the way, I think, as far south as Alabama. That's how crazy this is. Normally, you don't get a chance to see it. Now they're saying you do. So then this article goes on to say, the storm could interrupt high-frequency radio transmissions, such as by aircraft trying to communicate with distant traffic control towers. Most commercial aircraft can use satellite transmission as backup. It goes on to say, satellite operators might have trouble tracking their spacecraft, and power grids could also see some induced currents in their lines, though nothing they can't handle, he said. It says for the general public, if you have clear skies at night and you are at higher altitudes, this would be a great opportunity to see the skies light up. And it goes on to say, every 11 years, the sun's magnetic field flips, meaning its north and south poles switch positions. Solar activity changes during that cycle, and it's now near its most active, called the solar maximum. It finishes off by saying, during such times, geomagnetic storms of the type that arrives Sunday can hit Earth a few times a year. During solar minimum, a few years may pass between storms. But it says in December, the biggest solar flare in years disrupted radio communications. Now, here's your warning. Okay, here is your warning. According to reports, they say that the biggest issue right now, and let me read this, is power grids. And if you remember what this just said right here, okay, I want to just point this out really quick. Okay, what it says right here is it's talking about induced current. The concern has to do with our power grids. These could actually be almost knocked out. Okay, here's why. It says, during the most powerful storms, a huge flux of magnetic energy sweeps across Earth. This magnetic flux can induce currents in long-distance power lines, which can trip safety mechanisms meant to keep the grid from being overwhelmed. In the worst case, these induced fluxes could damage the grid. That's the concern. The concern is not with your health, and I want to point this out, okay? I want to read this from health.com. It says, solar flares in human health. It says, because of the above events, Some have wondered if solar flares can harm human health. Some people have reported feeling sick or having headaches following solar flares, but little to no research has suggested these links. Now, I want to come out and just preface this by saying it depends on where you are at. Most people are not gonna feel any effect. Some it's gonna be more mental than anything, and others depending on how high up you are, so potentially on an airplane. Let me keep reading this. It says, so in other words, solar flares are nothing to worry about from a health perspective. It says, harmful radiation from a flare cannot pass through Earth's atmosphere to physically affect humans on the ground. This is according to a NASA 2017 statement. It says, however, when intense enough, they can disturb the atmosphere in the layer where GPS and communication signals travel. Now, here's what I think is interesting. Okay, Dr. Gary agreed with NASA's statement. There are potential health effects for anyone exposed to the high energy radiation, but actually we are protected because those rays and particles get absorbed into our atmosphere. It says the radiation from solar events like solar flares naturally occur in the environment, but it isn't a threat to human health from day to day. This is where I'm talking about the airplane. People on airplanes flying at high altitudes over the poles, okay, it has to be over the poles, might be at increased risk for some of this radiation, according to Dr. Gary. Occasionally, flight routes are changed during periods of unusual solar activity. So, right there, they're saying you don't really have to be concerned as far as health-wise. The concern, though, is if communications get disrupted. If we see satellites get knocked out where now GPS is just thrown all over the place, and then if it actually harms our power grid. I want to read you one last thing. Okay, look at this. It says the public should not be concerned, but may wish to keep informed by visiting our webpage for any forecast changes and updates. This is according to the NOAA. That's what they said on Saturday. It says by Sunday afternoon, however, the agency alerted of a severe storm that could potentially impact technology and eventually extend to northern lights as far south as Alabama. So, I want to leave you with that because what we're hearing right now is that some people are concerned and some people are getting two different events mixed up. One of the things that a lot of people have been talking about lately, myself included, I did a video on this just yesterday. We were talking about a total solar eclipse. This is going to happen on April 8th. Many people saw this geomagnetic storm this weekend. They saw the alerts and they thought, you're completely full of crap when I did my video yesterday because they're like, it already happened. It's not a few weeks out. Well, here's the thing. A total solar eclipse is completely different than a geomagnetic storm. That has to do with pretty much outer space, right? But this, the solar eclipse, which is going to happen according to reports and all data, it's going to happen on April 8th, 2024. This is where the moon will pass in front of the sun, and it will actually create almost total darkness in many places here in the United States. So that's the difference. So if you guys have any questions, again, please ask your questions down in the comment section below. As of right now, the concern has to do with the power grid, not having to do with your personal health. Okay? So again, if you're worried about that, concerned in any way, just look it up. You'll see a lot of articles talking about how there's not really much to worry about. Yes, some people are going to try to spark fear in you, but according to most scientists, most experts, they say that no, we will be perfectly fine. So that's what I have for you guys today. As always, as I know more, I promise, I'll come back on and share all the latest news and updates. But as of today, that is what we know. So again, thank you guys for watching. Consider subscribing. And I'll see you guys on the next one.